I love marvelous videos. I haven't been disappointed with one yet. Excuse me. This video is about a TV series that was on the Fox network way back in 1987. The series starred John J. York, Chuck Connors. It was just a great show. I think so. This video is called 50 Insane Facts About Werewolf 1987 Show. Greatest werewolf content to ever air. I guess it would be on TV. Let's check it out.
I am a huge werewolf fan. I love them, especially the humanoid ones that do not walk on all fours.
Same
For
here.
me, that kind of dilutes the terror of the concept of a werewolf.
Yep.
A wolf merged with a man. Anyway, yesterday I was sitting and thinking where this obsession with werewolves really started for me, and instantly I remembered this gem of a show simply called Werewolf, released in 1987. I watched it as a kid without my parents' permission and was blown away by it.
I didn't need my parents' permission because my mother was watching it too. Thank you, Ma. Thank you. My mom got me into horror movies. All the horror movies I watched on TV. But you gotta figure, TV leaves a lot out, especially back then. They only had a certain amount of time. They had to put commercials in, FCC regulations back then. I was watching Beans Baxter, My Secret Identity, all this stuff that came out on Fox 5 when it turned from NYW 5. I'm sorry, WNYW 5 to Fox. The shows were great. And again, my mom brought me up on horror movies. And, like I said, with TV the way it was, everything was cut out. Like, I love a movie called The Entity with Barbara Hershey. But back then, you didn't see all the sexual stuff. All you saw was her getting hurt by a ghost, an entity. You didn't see the actual stuff until I rented it from a local video store, and I was shocked. Just blown away and horrified, which is what horror movies are for. And it's supposed to be fun. This series was fun. I don't remember any TV commercials for it. It was just something my mom planned to watch. It was about werewolves. That's all that needed to be said. Yeah, there were a lot of episodes of that show that I would say are really goofy and stupid. But still, for the late 80s, oh, I'm still debating whether or not to react to the entire series that's available on YouTube. This series, Werewolf. I'm still debating about doing it because once you get into TV shows, you've got to continue with the series. And even though this is only one season, It's not like today where most seasons of TV shows are usually 13 episodes. These were 20 something episodes. I remember looking up season 1 of I Love Lucy, and there was like 30 something episodes. So, I don't know. I'm still debating. I might do it. I might not. But I got a feeling this video is going to be a tons and tons and tons and tons of fun.
Series, which aired on the fledgling Fox network from 1987 to 1988, represents one of the most ambitious and technically impressive supernatural dramas of the 1980s, yet remains largely inaccessible to modern audiences due to complex rights issues that have prevented its official home video release.
I remember and I think I said this on other videos, John J. York, who plays Eric Cord in this series, he was on a podcast, and even he said he's been looking for the actual series in stores, like on DVD or something. All he has is what he recorded off of TV with his VCR. And he'd really would like it to come out. But again, like you just heard, red tape, money, politics, whatever. If this came out on DVD, I would be tempted to buy it, even though I don't own a TV. I don't own a DVD player. What I do have is a laptop and one of these things you can hook up to the computer and play DVDs. I forget what it's called, but I have one of them. And it does work. I would be so tempted to buy this series. I loved it and I miss it. I had so many nightmares as a kid with this. I was like 15, 16 years old. And again, I only been exposed to horror movies on TV. Yeah, I did go to the theater to see King Kong 76. I remember being in the theater for Alligator, but I'm hearing things now. Alligator wasn't in the theater. I think it was. And I saw Jaws in the theater, but I wasn't paying that much attention. I was a kid. I was running around. If there were other kids, we would go sit outside the theater near the concession stand and just goof around. And now that I'm older, I do regret that. But yeah, I was exposed to horror movies at a young age. I love them. I don't know. Back to the video.
Created by Frank Lupo during an era when lycanthropic terror dominated popular culture, this series combined the episodic structure of classic television with groundbreaking special effects from Academy Award-winning makeup artist Rick Baker, resulting in a unique viewing experience that pushed the boundaries of what could be achieved.
I think Rick Baker... Where's my phone so I can look it up? I think Rick Baker did the special effects for American Werewolf in London. Yeah, I'm learning all this stuff as I go because I didn't care. I don't even, yeah, the soundtrack can help make a movie, but I'm just getting into that part of the cinematic world now. But I still am a fan of just watching horror movies. Let's see, Rick Baker. Oops. Baker. Rick Baker movies. Men in Black 3, The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, King Kong, Men in Black 2, Planet of the Apes with Mark Wahlberg. Oh, he did The Incredible Shrinking Woman? Kentucky Fried Movie sucked. My friend Dornaris, we were doing something where we were giving each other a movie to watch and talk about later. She gave me that movie. All I did was sit there and say, "What the hell am I watching?" To me, that's not even a movie. That's just like a bunch of commercials copy and pasted together. Dornaris, that was bad. um, King Kong 76. Wow, is that all? Let me see who did special hits for an American Werewolf in London. Rick Baker, I was right. These practical effects, it's like you compare American Werewolf in London to American Werewolf in Paris. Even though I did enjoy those werewolves as well, nothing beats this. Nothing beats the American Werewolf in London. Nothing beats the Howling. Little spoiler here. Do you remember when the girl was in the doctor's office looking around? The werewolf came up behind her and just started to transform in front of her. That was scary stuff. And a lot of people today might say, "Oh no, it's not. That's not scary." Because you've seen all this new stuff, you were desensitized. It's not like back then where everything was cut out and then eventually you saw it for the first time. No, a lot of the time CGI can ruin a movie. I'm still praying to God they really don't remake Jaws because I'm thinking it's going to be like Deep Blue Sea. And I do enjoy Deep Blue Sea, but Deep Blue Sea is not Jaws. Well, anyway, that Rick Baker did this. Wow.
On network television. And now, as an adult, when I checked the forums, I found thousands of people are massive fans of this show.
Yep.
In today's video, we are going to explore this gem of werewolf content that the world has forgotten, but it still lives as a fond memory in our collective intelligence. Let's begin with what exactly the story was and what really happened in the show. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us.
Yeah, what you're seeing now is from the new movie that came out this year called Werewolves, which again wasn't that bad, but it's a different take on the werewolf lore. Lou Diamond Phillips was in it, and yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's not these old shows. Look, anybody watching this, it's like talking about the music you love with kids of today. A lot of kids of today would be like, "Huh? That old grandpa music?" It's the same thing with this, but that's why you have movie reactors on YouTube and you can see it in their faces as they're watching it. They're amazed that the old movies can still capture their attention. There's two reactors, a father and son, called Generation Media Reactions. You watch that little kid watching these shows. I think he's like 10, 11. It's just amazing. He talks about the movies ahead of time, and sometimes you can tell he's a kid. It's almost like he doesn't want to be sitting there. He doesn't want to be watching it. And then as the movie goes on, he gets into it. That's why me and a lot of people love movie reactions, because we see people getting into the movie. And it does remind us of when we got into the movie. And a lot of these old movies stand the test of time. People can watch Jaws today and be like, wow. And it's a really deep in the stomach feeling of wow, because of how great the movie is. The same with these werewolf movies. The only thing I don't like is the nudity and the sex. My opinion, you put nudity and sex in movies for the most part to sell it. These movies didn't need that. They sell themselves, just the storyline. I don't know. Back to the video.
Us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
There's Eric.
Absolutely stunning story, arc, and high production quality episodes. Story begins with Eric Cord, a promising college student portrayed by John J. York. His life is on a seemingly perfect trajectory, good grades, a loving girlfriend, a bright future, but a single, terrifying night shatters it all. Eric discovers his roommate and best friend, Ted Nichols, horrifically wounded. Ted, gasping for breath, confesses a terrible secret. He is a werewolf. He claims to have been bitten by a legendary, almost mythical werewolf, Janos Skorzeny, and in his pain and delirium, Ted bites Eric, passing on the unholy curse. Ted, knowing the monster he is becoming and the danger he poses, begs Eric to kill him with a silver bullet. He gives Eric a silver Colt .45 and warns him that the only way to break the curse is to find and kill the originator of their bloodline, the ancient and powerful Janos Skorzeny. Reluctantly, tragically, Eric fulfills his friend's desperate wish. The first transformation is a brutal awakening. The series didn't shy away from the agonizing reality of lycanthropy. Eric, alone and terrified, experiences the searing pain, the loss of control as the beast within takes over. He is no longer just Eric Cord. He is a creature of instinct, of unimaginable strength, and of terrifying violence. And so begins Eric Cord's desperate odyssey. Branded a murderer for Ted's death, he becomes a fugitive, relentlessly pursued by the law. But a far more dangerous hunter is also on his trail. The enigmatic and grizzled bounty hunter, Alamo Joe Rogan, played with chilling intensity by Lance Legault. Lance Legault was Alamo Joe Rogan.
He could not believe what he was looking at. This series was just, it was good. Even the corny parts, it was good.
Wasn't just a cop, he was a force of nature, a man who seemed to understand the darkness Cord carried because he carried his own. He often carried a distinctive weapon, a massive .45-70 government buntline special revolver. Rogan is no ordinary bounty hunter. He knows about werewolves. He's encountered their kind before, a fact hinted at through cryptic remarks and a deep-seated, almost personal vendetta. This relentless pursuit added a layer of constant tension to the series, making every town Eric entered, every person he met.
This is Chuck Connors. I wasn't having nightmares as a kid about Eric. Wasn't having nightmares as a kid really about the werewolves. It was only once in a while. Most of my nightmares was about Chuck Connors playing Janos Scorzini. Even when he talks to you, I mean, not like he's talking to me, but as you hear him talking, he's scary just on his own. Now, he's not in the whole series because there were contract disputes and everything. But yeah, I watch this series once a year. That's how much I love it. And it is available on YouTube. It's available in individual episodes. And there are also two videos where it's like half the series is in one video and the other half of the series is in another video. It was just so good. And yeah, it wasn't all the CGI, and the music helped with the eeriness and the spookiness. I don't know. It was just all around done very well to where you can overlook the corny stuff.
A potential threat. Each episode of Werewolf typically saw Eric arriving in a new town, a lone drifter trying to stay ahead of Rogan,
And it doesn't hurt that John J. York is hella cute. Oh my god, he's so cute.
the inevitable rise of the full moon. In Nightwatch, episode 2, Eric's journal entries revealed his growing understanding of lycanthropy's rules. Transformations occurred randomly rather than monthly. Silver caused excruciating pain to werewolves, and killing the bloodline's originator offered the only cure. This episode also established Alamo Joe's tragic backstory, a Comanche descendant whose childhood encounter with a skinwalker left him psychologically scarred and determined to confront his fears through Eric's capture. The series
And this whole thing of severing the bloodline, even when I was a kid, I thought, okay, you want to kill Scorzini because he made Ted and Ted made you. But if severing the bloodline and killing the werewolf made you, that made you, was the one and only cure, how come when he killed Teddy, he just didn't transform? So even back then, I was thinking, well, how did Scorzini become a werewolf? You know, who made Scorzini? And then whoever made Scorzini, where are they? And where is the person that made them? That's why this whole thing of severing the bloodline never made sense to me in these movies, because the only time I ever saw, no, even then it's not even the origins. In a spin-off to the Vampire Diaries, the originals, Klaus Michelson is a werewolf vampire hybrid. Who made the werewolves that made the werewolf that screwed his mother and he was born? He was born a werewolf. So, where do you find the beginning? But such an amazing show.
clever used these encounters to explore different facets of Eric's curse and his struggle to maintain his humanity. One week, Eric might find himself protecting a vulnerable family from local
Yep.
thugs, his werewolf strength an unwelcome ally. The next, he might encounter someone else touched by the supernatural, a fellow outcast who understands his plight, or perhaps another victim of Skorzeni's lineage. These encounters were often tinged with sadness, as Eric knew he couldn't stay, couldn't form attachments. His curse made him a perpetual wanderer. The central quest, however, remained the driving force: find Janos Skorzeny. Skorzeny, portrayed with a suave, aristocratic menace by Chuck Connors in his final...
Yeah, and the first time we see Skorzeny transform, I've never seen a werewolf transform like that. And this is going to be a spoiler, but it's a quick one. As his mouth is starting to come out, he puts his fingers in his skin and pulls his skin off his head like a mask, and it leads you to believe that he's leaving his human body where he's pulling off this skin. But the skin is never left behind. But the way it was done, that was gross, and it added to the nightmares. It added to the scariness, to the intenseness. I don't know. A lot of the times today, it just seems like everybody in Hollywood is high and relying on CGI. And now it might be relying on AI. But nothing really beats this.
Final television role was the antithesis of Eric. He was ancient, powerful, and had fully embraced his lycanthropy, seeing it as a gift, a form of predatory godhood. The name Janos Skorzeny itself was a clever nod to classic horror. It was the alias used by the vampire in the 1972 TV movie The Night Stalker, a film that heavily influenced Werewolf's creators.
I never knew that. And my mother used to watch that show a lot, and she never said anything about it. Ma, why didn't you say anything about that?
This intertextuality was a subtle wink to horror aficionados. The mythology of lycanthropy in Werewolf was distinct. The pentagram, often associated with werewolves, was a key element. It appeared on the palm of the werewolf's human hand, a mark of the beast. Transformations were excruciatingly painful and not always tied strictly to the full moon.
Yeah, in this series, it was the first time I had ever seen it's not the full moon. It can happen anytime. And the pentagram showing up on your hand is how you know it's going to happen that night. And once it starts leaking blood, you've only got a couple of minutes till you transform. Literally, maybe 2-3 minutes, and you start. I had never seen that before in any of the werewolf movies, in any of the werewolf books that I read. And I didn't read like werewolf stories so much. It was more like what you would call documentary type books. It was the information and the lore and all this. Not like a storybook, but information. And I never heard this before. Never. So this was a new take on it. And it worked.
Point of Season 1 saw Eric's first direct confrontation with Skorzeny in Blood on the Tracks, Episode 15, set aboard a ghost train transporting illegal immigrants. This visceral episode showcased the series' willingness to engage...
No. The first time Werewolf Eric and Werewolf Scorzini fought was in a cabin, because while Eric was trying to have himself tied up by his girlfriend Kelly and left in a hotel room, thinking that would stop him from going out and killing people, Scorzini shows up, kidnaps her, takes her to a cabin in the woods where you can see there are skeletal remains there with still some flesh on them. So Scorzini, it seems like, took victims there before. And that's where you see Eric showing up at the door. That train scene, I wouldn't even say was illegal immigrants. I think they were just what used to be called vagabonds or bums. They were homeless traveling the trains. So I don't know where Marvelous Videos got that from. But the first time the two wolves clashed in the first episode was not on a train.
Age with social issues, as Eric protected refugees from both Scorzini's predations and human traffickers. The climactic fight in a cattle car drenched in blood-red lighting demonstrated the show's mastery of confined space choreography, with Eric's raw desperation contrasting against Scorzini's methodical brutality. A major turning...
And Scorzini wasn't even in that train car. So I don't know, maybe there's episodes that aired in other countries that we never saw. But I did a reaction to the first episode, and that was the first time we saw them clash. So, Marvelous Videos, please go back and watch the series, because you're wrong on that.
Point arrived in the two-part To Dream of Wolves, episodes 25 to 26, where Eric finally cornered Scorzini in a decaying Louisiana plantation. In a shocking twist, Scorzini's death failed to lift the curse, revealing him as merely a lieutenant in the bloodline hierarchy. The true progenitor emerged as Nicholas Remy, Brian Thompson, an aristocratic werewolf posing as a college professor whose ancient lineage and intellectual cunning made him a far more formidable antagonist. This narrative swerve expanded the series' scope, hinting at a secret history of lycanthropy stretching back to medieval Europe. The final episodes plunged Eric into psychological and physical torment as Remy manipulated events to break his resolve. Grey Wolf, episode 28, introduced a tragic counterpart to Eric, an elderly werewolf named Harlan, who embraced his monstrous nature. Their uneasy alliance and subsequent betrayal forced Eric to confront his own capacity for darkness, culminating in a midnight duel where Harlan's silver-tinged blood temporarily weakened Remy. The series finale, Amazing Grace, episode 29, brought Eric's journey full circle through his protection of a dementia patient who witnessed his transformation. In a poignant subversion of the pilot's dynamic, Eric became...
I thought the episodes with Remy were the last episodes. Maybe I should react to the entire series just so I can catch up as well. I mean, I watch so much stuff every year. Our brains, condense files in a sense. And with everything we watch, it might be hard to access those files. So I think I really should react to the whole series.
Became the mentor figure, teaching the woman's skeptical daughter to see beyond surface horrors. The closing moments teased Remy's next move with a chilling monologue about evolutionary dominance, leaving Eric's fate unresolved when Fox cancelled the series. Inception and vision of the show and why it was cancelled. The genesis of Werewolf can be traced to the creative partnership between Frank Lupo and the nascent Fox Broadcasting Company, which was desperately seeking original programming to distinguish itself from the established networks. Lupo, who had already established himself as a prolific television producer through his work on series such as The A-Team, Hunter, and Wise Guy, recognized an opportunity to create something unprecedented in the horror television landscape. The timing was particularly fortuitous, as the 1980s had witnessed a resurgence of werewolf-themed entertainment, with films like An American Werewolf in London and The Howling demonstrating audiences' appetite for sophisticated lycanthropic storytelling. The series emerged from Lupo's desire to create a horror anthology with a central character, combining elements from successful television formulas with the visceral appeal of creature features. Unlike previous attempts at horror television, which often relied on suggestion rather than explicit transformation sequences, Werewolf would showcase fully realized metamorphosis scenes in each episode, requiring a level of technical sophistication that had never been attempted on a weekly television series. The concept was ambitious enough to require a feature-length pilot to properly establish the mythology and tone, which ultimately became a standalone television movie that aired on July.
Yes. It's like an hour and a half long. And it's great. It's just great.
11th, 1987. Frank Lupo's vision for Werewolf extended beyond simple Monster of the Week storytelling, instead crafting a serialized narrative that would explore themes of isolation, redemption, and the struggle between civilization and primal instinct. The series drew inspiration from classic television shows like The Fugitive and The Incredible Hulk, but subverted audience expectations by presenting a protagonist whose monstrous alter ego posed genuine danger to innocent people. This moral ambiguity distinguished Werewolf from its predecessors, as Eric Cord's transformations carried the constant threat of unintended violence, creating a more psychologically complex viewing experience. The casting of John J. York as Eric Cord proved crucial to the series' success, despite the actor's initial reluctance to participate in a horror production. York, who was cast only 2 weeks before the pilot began filming, brought a vulnerability and humanity to the role that grounded the fantastical elements in emotional reality. Chuck Connors appeared as the menacing sea captain Janos Skorzeny, whose werewolf bite had initiated Eric's curse. Connors, in what would be his final television role, brought his considerable screen presence to bear on the character, creating a genuinely intimidating villain whose maritime background added gothic atmosphere to the proceedings. When health issues forced Connors to step back from the role, the series seamlessly transitioned to Brian Thompson as Nicholas Remy, the true originator of Eric's werewolf bloodline. Thompson's portrayal of Remy introduced a more sophisticated and ancient evil.
Right, but who made Remy a werewolf?
The series' mythology. The technical achievement that truly distinguished Werewolf from other television productions was its unprecedented use of practical special effects for the transformation sequences. Rick Baker, fresh from his Academy Award win for An American Werewolf in London, was brought in to design and oversee the werewolf effects, marking the first time such sophisticated creature work had been attempted for weekly television. Baker's involvement lent immediate credibility to the production and ensured that the transformations.
This is what I was talking about, how he just pulled his skin off like it was a phony face, like you see in some spy action movies. I never saw that in any other werewolf movie. And that added to the fear you had watching this.
Sequences would meet the high standards set by contemporary horror films. The werewolf design created by Baker and his team was deliberately imposing, featuring a 7-foot-tall creature with an intimidating physical presence that could convincingly portray both predator and tragic monster. The transformation process was achieved through a combination of prosthetic makeup, practical effects, and carefully choreographed staging that maximized the impact of each metamorphosis scene. The extensive makeup crew, including Stuart Artingstall, Linda Benavente Notaro, and Gino Cronale, worked tirelessly to maintain consistency across the 29 episodes while continually refining their techniques. Greg Canham, who would later win multiple Academy Awards for his own makeup work, served as the primary makeup effects supervisor, coordinating the complex process of applying and removing the werewolf prosthetics for each episode. The technical demands of the transformation sequences required significant planning and coordination, as as each episode needed to accommodate the time-consuming application process while maintaining production schedules. The series employed multiple cameras and specialized lighting to capture the metamorphosis from various angles, creating dynamic sequences that rival the effects found in major motion pictures. Much different from what we see in today's MCU movies, where actors are jumping from one box to another behind a green screen in their hollow compounds. That's the reason why a show that was released almost 38 years ago is still fresh in our memory, while we don't even remember a movie we saw in the theatre last week. The cancellation of Werewolf after one season remains one of the most frustrating decisions in television history for fans of the series. According to producer John Ashley, the show was achieving solid ratings and building a loyal audience, but Fox's executives pressured the creative team to expand the format from 30-minute episodes to hour-long installments. The move to Sunday nights proved detrimental to the series' ratings, as the new time slot placed it in direct competition with established programming from the major networks. When Fox offered the choice between returning to Saturday nights with the hour-long format or cancellation, Lupo and Ashley chose to end the series rather than compromise their creative vision. The series' replacement in Fox's Saturday night lineup was Married with Children, which would go on to become one of the network's signature shows. While this decision proved commercially successful for Fox, it left Werewolf fans without closure and contributed to the series' gradual fade into obscurity. Plans for a complete series DVD release were announced in 2009 by Shout Factory, generating considerable excitement among fans who had been waiting decades to revisit the series. However, the release was ultimately cancelled due to complex music rights issues that proved insurmountable for the distribution company. The specific problem involved a small number of songs featured in the pilot episode, whose rights holders demanded prohibitive licensing fees that would have made the DVD release commercially unviable. Unlike other series where problematic music could be replaced, the songs in Werewolf were integrated into dialogue tracks in such a way that removing them would have required extensive re-editing that would have compromised the artistic integrity of the episodes. The absence of official home video releases has relegated Werewolf to the status of a lost series, with fans relying on poor quality recordings from cable television reruns and bootleg copies that fail to capture the series' visual sophistication.
Yep, and music will get you every time. That's why so many reactors, when they're doing their editing, they have to edit out sound because of the music. It happens.
Brief reruns on the Chiller Cable network provided some exposure to new audiences, but the inconsistent broadcast quality and limited availability have prevented the series from finding the wider audience it deserves. The series did spawn some ancillary media, including a 6-issue comic book adaptation published by Blackthorn Publishing in 1988. These comics attempted to continue Eric Cord's story beyond the television series' abrupt conclusion, but their limited circulation and the publisher's eventual closure meant that even these extensions of the werewolf mythology remain difficult to find. Through its blend of practical effects, mastery, morally complex storytelling, and relentless pacing, Werewolf crafted a template that would influence later genre series from Buffy the Vampire Slayer to Supernatural. The show's greatest tragedy lies not in Eric's curse, but in its own unresolved narrative, a howl cut short by network politics, leaving audiences forever wondering what monstrous wonders might have followed. Wow, this video was really a trip down the memory lane for me. Hope you guys must have enjoyed it. I will catch you guys in the next one. Till then, be safe and be marvelous. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go through the whole series again. Because, like I said, Marvelous Videos was wrong. The first altercation of Eric's wolf and Scorzini's wolf was in the first episode. But I enjoyed this, and I hope you did too.